Welcome to another Black Male Impact. Today's conversation is with Dr. Christopher Green. Dr. Green, welcome to the Black Male Impact. But also, before we get started, I'm just going to ask Dr. Green to share with us something about himself, and then we get into the conversation.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dr. Cross, for having me join your program today. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
So again, my name is Chris Green, and I am a native of Cleveland, Ohio, born and raised. I have worked in higher education now for about 10 years full time, and most recently accepted a role at Northland Pioneer College in Arizona, Northeastern Arizona to be exact, as the director for the early college programs. And again, I'm happy to be here and share a little bit more about myself and speak with you more, Dr. Cross.
Okay. All right, man. Sounds great. So I'm going to see if I can drop a question pertaining to the early childhood, the program. What's the name of the program again?
Early college programs.
Early college program. So I'm going to see because that's a challenge for a lot of institutions in preparing their first time college students. So hopefully I get back to and ask you a question on that part of your new journey. But I'm going to get into the question. My first question to you. What is the mindset that it takes to make a positive impact?
Well, first, I would say it takes a mindset that is both continuous improvement based on growth and development as well. If you're not able to grow and develop as a person and professionally, you're not going to have a positive impact on whatever you're doing. So that's what I would first initially think of as you're thinking about a mindset to prepare someone to be able to make a positive impact on the environment that they're in.
Okay. Yes, I do believe that working on yourself is important in regards to making a positive impact because it starts with you as a person. So I do believe that that's very, very important as we move forward in regards to making a positive impact. So I appreciate that response. So my next question is, what advice do you have for the men listening on how they can play a role in creating positive change?
That's a great question. So I would say first, you would want to find out what you're passionate about, what drives you. A lot of us have different careers that we've chosen, and a lot of people look at roles that they're in as just a job. So thinking about what is it that you see yourself doing long term that gives you joy and enthusiasm that you can see yourself doing for the rest of your life, and you don't have to necessarily think of it as a job, but a path that really impacts and changes others' lives. So that would be the first step that I would say as far as thinking about how you can impact others, and I guess advice that I can share. And once you do that, you're definitely going to set yourself up for success and to be able to make the changes that you like to make, especially in the kind of environment that we're living in now.
Okay, I believe that is important now more than ever. We have to strive to be that example. But I like how you put it in regards to start with our passion, because it's if you're not passionate about it, yes, you may show up, but you may not give your all in doing what you are doing. And that's important because it's going to transfer over to people.
Right.
That energy, if you're not really passionate about it, they can tell by how you show up and how you present yourself in those environments. So I really appreciate that response. And it starts with passion. I do believe in creating positive change. We must pursue what we are passionate about. So how can we as Black men help to change the narrative today?
That's another great question. Very loaded one, but a great question. I would say for me as a Black man, I would want to, in everything that I do, is to change the stereotypes that are associated with Black men and just, I guess, men of color in general. There are a lot of perceptions that people have or misconceptions that are conscious and unconscious at times. So being able to break down those barriers and communicating with people, I know for me in higher education, that has been a constant journey that I have undertaken in every institution, in every position that I've held, to not associate myself with the stereotypes or the negative connotations that are associated with Black men as a whole. A lot of times, like I said, people have these thoughts and they're not backed up by facts, or they're not interacting with people in a way that they can understand their journey and understand their culture and pathways. So that's something I would say is it's key for Black men as a whole to do, to be able to break down those stereotypes and barriers that people have. And it's only so much that we can do. Of course, it's on others to think outside of the box, to be open-minded, and for them to be a part of that learning process. It's a two-way street. It's not just for us to do that, for them to want to be able to learn and to be open to what we as Black men offer in wherever we are and whatever we do. So that's how I would approach that as a Black man, and would hope that others would do the same.
Okay, man, that's a very important perspective because, again, yes, it starts with us, but others have to realize that they have to change their perception of us. Yes, we will change the perception of ourselves, but others have to change the perception as well. It's a constant effort that we have to engage in regards to changing that perspective of ourselves. Because I believe, and you can attest to this if you don't mind, we then internalize what society says about us. And then because we internalize it, we live it out. So, and I'm just going to ask another question pertaining to that. How do the individuals in your work environment view you? It can be co-workers or students.
I would say in general, I work very well with people, and generally have a good relationship with people, whether it be faculty, staff, or students. I've worked in three community colleges now, and two, well, now my fourth community college in the third state here, and have had great experiences. Of course, there were some challenging experiences that I've had working with different constituencies, and being able to make sure that I am thinking about what I do at times before I do it, and or kind of thinking about the reaction that could possibly be best in the situations that I handle. I had one situation, I can kind of give you an example, at a previous college, where someone approached me from a very negative point of view, and had a lot of misconceptions and ideas about who I was, but didn't get to know me. So that opportunity that I had to deal with that type of situation, which there was some, I guess, some conversations that should have been handled a little bit better from that perspective, but I handled it, again, professionally, not feeding into the stereotype associated with me as a Black man, and just to be very thoughtful, careful in how I respond. So that's just something that I do in every environment that I'm in, whether it's higher education or just out about shopping or whatever it is that I do. So that's, I would say, how I handle, or how my experiences have been. I've been in places that are very much conservative, very liberal environments, small, large, where I currently live. When I looked at the census, there probably were 12 Black people that were counted within the city. So I've been in Cleveland, of course, grown up, born and raised, and had been around a lot of people of color. So I've been in a lot of diverse environments. So that has allowed me to kind of better adapt and work with people across the spectrum, and inform my decisions and how I react and respond to situations.
And I really appreciate that, because sometimes when we are approached in a negative way, we can react according to how we were approached, sometimes not thinking about what we are about to do, and the repercussion that can
Right.
come after. Although you may be trying to defend yourself, or trying to let people know that this is who I am and this is not who I am, and stuff like that. But some people may take it other way, and then it may tarnish some relationship or so as you go forward, because
Right.
how people respond, react to you based
Right.
on your response can be different. And I really appreciate it, and I really take that point, because that's something that we all need to think about, how we respond. Sometimes we may be right, but sometimes we have to understand the environment, the culture, so we don't get caught up in certain things when it comes to what we say and when we say. So I do appreciate that's a very valid point as we navigate our way as we go forward. So I really appreciate that. So my next question is, what or who has influenced or inspired you to pursue the path that you're on?
I would say my biggest champions and supporters would be my parents. My parents were not able to go to college, and have some of the opportunities that I've had, and really they've pushed and encouraged me to better myself, and education was definitely a way for me to do that. And they've always supported my decisions in careers and just in pathways that I've chosen, and just everything that I do. So they're my biggest supporters and champions, and have been there from the beginning, and I really value their opinions and their feedback.
Okay. I know you say you're in education. So, did you have any educators that you look up to that inspire you to go in the path? Or because I know there's a strong need for Black men in education. Was that your inspiration, or was it someone that you had as a teacher that really fostered that desire?
That's a great question. So for me, I originally envisioned myself being a cardiologist and an English professor. And of course, being like most college students, I changed my major and decided to go a different pathway. But growing up, I saw a few Black men that were teachers. And that really, I guess, empowered me to want to do something along the lines of education. But I also enjoyed science and medicine. So that was, my primary goal. But of course, like I said, things changed. But yeah, I had some people that I saw that were Black men that were positive role models that were teaching from my time in middle school through high school. And then, of course, at my undergraduate institution of Ohio Wesleyan University, there were some people of color there from different places. So I had some exposure to people of color, especially Black men that were in education. So that, of course, continued to inspire me to want to move into education, and now specifically higher education. So yes, I would say that that has definitely shaped my experience. And being able to see yourselves reflected in the environments that you're in, I think is key. Representation matters. A lot of people say, well, it does, as long as we just get the best qualified person, in the position, it doesn't matter who they are, but it does matter. And of course, not to diminish any other group of people, but it's really important for people of color, especially Black men, growing up, to see themselves in a positive light in that way. So, like I said, that had a lot of, I guess, impact on how I looked at myself at this point in my life and kind of shaped my experience. And of course, like I said, my parents have been great supporters and champions in everything that I've done.
Okay, man, that's a valid point right there. Having your parents, of course, to be the champions to inspire and motivate you and push you. But you said a valid point where representation matters, especially for Black boys in schools, because that's one of what research has said. If a Black male student get a Black male teacher in the third grade, their chances increase by 33%. I think I'm correct with the numbers right there, but if not, don't hold me to it. But increases their chances to graduate and go on to college. So it's really important. And also, have a greater chance to become more than what the society says about you as a Black male. And you can become who you see. Who you see, it's easy for you to become that person. So I really appreciate that. Yes, representation matters. So my next question is, what's your perspective on the current climate of Black men in society?
That's another loaded question, but a great question to ask. I would say for me, and kind of thinking about my realm, I guess, of higher education, I can't speak on every other facet of society, but I can infer. But I would say in higher education, Black men, as you kind of hinted to, or Black boys becoming men, need to have people that look like them to inspire their journey and to kind of direct and guide them. And I've seen that change more in higher education, with the representation in colleges and universities having Black presidents, both male and female, and being very much more open to hiring Black faculty. That was definitely one of my goals as I worked in positions that work directly with faculty, to have more faculty of color and in positions that, like I said, representation, having that in the classroom is important, and it's no different in a college setting.
Yes.
So that has definitely changed and shifted. Of course, there are still issues with the students in terms of their success and completion rates when it comes to Black students versus their white counterparts, and of course, other minority groups, but especially Black men. I think that that's still a gap that we still have not been able to really lessen across the board. And I think there's more that can be done about that. And that's hopefully what I like to continue to do in my work in higher education to limit that gap as far as success and completion rates for Black male students versus their counterparts. And in terms of some of the other things that are happening, of course, we know since 2020 with George Floyd and some other events that have taken place over these last few years with the pandemic, that Black men or just people of color have been targeted in a number of different ways and have been singled out in instances for different things. But there's more that I think we as a community can do. I know that there are a lot of different entities, of course, NAACP and some other groups that are in place within colleges, universities. Of course, DEI is very big, diversity, equity, inclusion now, but not just taglining that statement that we're actually doing some work to help maintain a level of competency and understanding across the board of people of color, especially Black men. So that's something I've seen some changes in over these last few years, but that's just kind of my, I guess, short view of that, not a 20,000-foot view, I guess, in that instance. But that's kind of where I see the climate of Black men in society today.
Well, yes. Just to summarize what you just said, from being in the classroom, because that's your space, or in higher education, but it's for us to get involved and to play our role in changing what we can, especially as you mentioned, NAACP. We also have to get into the community and be a part of the change. We can't allow one organization or two organizations or even three organizations to do the work. We have to get involved and be a part of the work and help to change that, or how we have been perceived in society today. So my next question is, what change do you want to see in general amongst Black men? And you kind of shared that just earlier, but just could you, what change would you like to see amongst us as Black men in our society?
I would say for me, and this has just been my experience, is more mentorship and camaraderie among Black men, especially within advancing in higher education in terms of positions. Specifically, for me, I have had a number of positions in higher education starting out in 2012, and most of those opportunities were, I guess, offered or directed to me by people who didn't look like me.
Oh, wow.
And it's sad that there were people around who looked like me, but most of those people were not very supportive in that growth and development, as we've talked about earlier, and kind of guided me through my journey in higher education as a career pathway. Currently, at my new institution where I said I'll be starting on Monday officially, I have a supervisor who happens to be of Asian descent, and have already started to build relationships and connect with people, as I was mentioning earlier today with an event that I attended, and really had a warm welcome. And that's something that I really would want to see from us as Black men or Black people in general. Women, I think it's also important for them to be a part of that process to mentor and guide others within their field, whether it be higher education or medicine, nursing, business, whatever the field may be, that they're supporting others who want to kind of go along that pathway and giving them skills and resources that they can use to be successful and not look at it as a competition.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of times what I've seen. And it really hurts me to see that we're not working together, we're competing.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, it's not a competition. It's not a race of who can get to the highest position first. We should all be able to do that in our respective fields. And that's something that I'd like to see more of. I myself mentor someone that graduated from my first college, and I still keep in contact with him and try to help him as much as I can. And that's something I like to see more within our community. So that's what I would see in terms of a change that can be important for Black men and Black women.
Man, that's a so valid point. And we are talking about making progress. We are talking about moving the needle forward. We are talking about all these things. Where do we go from here? And that is the answer. That is the answer. we need to be more supportive of each other and realize that this is not a competition. The more we compete against ourselves, the more we lose out an opportunity for progress, because when we are competing, the outside ethnic groups see us as not together. And being that they're not together, they're not going to come here and do what they're supposed to do because they're busy competing with each other. And man, that is so, so important. If we can just get that, if we can just get the importance of that, man, we would make so much progress. It would be crazy. So, man, that's a valid point. We have to see ourselves as mentors and see ourselves as our brothers and sisters keeper. Man, we have to. If we are thinking that, man, this is so important. I wish I could take that clip and just play it every day for all of next week. That is so important. It is important. And I really appreciate that you share that point. And listeners, for us to go forward, for us to move the needle, for us to make the progress we want, we have to be able to work together. This is not a competition. The more we compete against our own, the more we hold ourselves back. Man, I really appreciate that point that you shared. So I'm going to ask another question. What was a pivotal moment in your life?
I would say that's a two-part response for me. The one was being able to move into a leadership role within higher education. I had been in support staff roles for a number of years and had some challenges in terms of moving into leadership. So that was a pivotal change for me to be able to move into a leadership capacity and then kind of move into where I am now. But of course, one very important moment that I would never forget the experience and the journey was receiving my doctorate. First in my family to graduate from university at the graduate level and doctoral level specifically. So just seeing my mom and my dad and my aunt and uncle at my commencement, it just really, everything came full circle. My journey to get there, the challenges that I experienced and all of that. So that for me was definitely a pivotal moment and has really shaped what I've done thus far in terms of what I do in higher education and will want to do more of as I continue to learn and advance and, of course, grow as a person.
Man, that is, I can attest to that. Getting the doctoral degree started my journey. I didn't even know this was possible. I knew I wanted to change my situation that I grew up in, but I didn't really see myself going this far. A few people introduced the idea to me whilst I was on my journey. And actually, even when I got into it, it was almost by accident because I went to teach for a job opportunity. And I was talking to someone and I said, man, what? We have the program. Why not? And that's how I started my journey into the program. But I believe that's a valid point. Sometimes the things that we accomplish then becomes our pivotal moment. And because it not only inspires us or empowers us, but it inspires other people to pursue a path that they didn't even think they could
Yes.
have pursued. Okay, so man, that's inspiring. So my next question is, what life lesson have you learned late in life that you believe is important and can benefit this current generation?
I would say in one word, patience. I've always looked at getting things quickly in terms of maybe positions or just being able to get access to things that I needed for different reasons in my roles in higher education, and knowing that everyone doesn't move the way that I move, and to be able to take a step back and understand that there's a process to get things done. It doesn't happen overnight. So to be patient, I think, is key, and to make sure that you are ready for an opportunity to come your direction and be able to have those individuals, like we talked about mentorship earlier, those people around you to support you and advocate for your champion for you. So I would say patience is key. I've had to learn that a number of times, even in taking on this role that I've taken on now, just to be patient. For me, just real quick, I had been looking for jobs in different colleges, universities around the country, and even abroad. And I'm like, okay, I'm putting these applications out. I'm getting interviews for some positions, but things are not moving fast enough. But this position really aligned the way that I needed it to align. I did one interview for the job virtually. I was hired within
Oh,
a
wow.
week and a half of interviewing, and moved to Arizona, uprooted my life from Ohio to Arizona. So for me, it's just, I think patience is what I've learned to have more of, and to be more uh, open to whatever opportunities may be coming my way based on the situation that I'm in. Everything is not how I had envisioned it or planned it to be, but it's where I need to be and where I'm supposed to be. So that's kind of, I would encourage others to kind of think about it from that perspective as they're doing whatever they're doing in terms of career, education, just life in general, just to be patient.
Patience is one thing that we all need sometimes because, as you said, sometimes we want things to go as fast as we want it, but that's not how it is at times. Life sometimes slow it down, maybe for our own benefit. Not
Yes,
we think, this is what we need to do right now, but there are some things that we may need to do before we get to that point, and the
right,
process help us to really get what we need or fine tune what we need to, so we can get into that next transition smoothly, or just in
right.
general in life, because especially the generation today, patience is really a valid reminder because, as you know, the younger generation want things instant. It's just, as they would say, I think we've passed the microwave. It's faster now than the microwave mindset. But having patience is really important, because sometimes life don't go as fast as we want it to go or what we want to achieve. If we don't have patience, we may give up too quickly. And if we give up, we're not going to achieve the things that we want. So we have to practice patience. But I'm going to ask you about the your new position and the role, and how do you see that with students who may not be prepared? Yes, with your new role, how do you see that with helping students who may not be fully prepared for college?
That's a great question. So, with my new role at NPC or Northland Pioneer College, I work primarily with students wanting to take college level courses at the high school level, in their high school and then at the college campuses, or virtually. So, in my role, I would oversee the advising staff with different territories of students that they have within different regions of the state, so to speak, and the service areas that we have within the college campuses and centers. So being able to have those conversations about how we as a college can better partner with local school districts, superintendents, with principals and teachers, as well as high school counseling staff, to make sure that students are positioned appropriately to be able to take college courses and to be successful and hopefully to matriculate and obtain an associate's degree from the college, and have that completed potentially by the time that they graduate. That would be my goal in seeing that more of that happen. I know at my previous college, we had a number of students who graduated with their associate's degree as well as their high school diploma by the time they were 18 or in their senior year, whatever that case may be. So that's something I like to see in this role kind of blossom as I get acclimated with the communities and with the partners and of course the college, and to make sure the students are successful as they're getting information and getting into the college, registering, being advised, and then of course taking classes and hopefully graduating from a certificate or degree program. So that's my goal, and of course to see more minority students graduate than they've been in the past. I know this particular college has about 30 to 40% students that are high school students that are at the college. So being able to make sure that we sustain that and have even more opportunities for students to take college courses in different programs, I think is also key. So those are some of the things hopefully I'd like to accomplish as I step into this role.
Okay, man, that sounds great. And wherever we can provide growth, that's always important. And to see progress. And as you said, especially amongst the minority students who sometimes may not be pushed in those areas to champion their own life.
Right.
And sometimes, just to, that extra guidance will help them to realize their own greatness. So that is always important. But before I ask my last question, I'm going to ask you, where can the listeners find you and support your work
to
make a difference?
Yes, so I am on social media. I can be found on Instagram at Doc Green 007. So DOC Green, like the color 007, as well as on TikTok. And then, of course, I'm on LinkedIn, Christopher M. Green, comma EDD.
Okay. All right, man. Because I really believe you're doing great work and it's needed. And as Black men, we need to allow ourselves to become more visible in the work that we do, because that's how we're going to inspire others. And as you mentioned, you're on TikTok. So I know that's where most of the younger generations are right now. So that's great. So you can find Dr. Green on Instagram, on TikTok, and also on LinkedIn. But also we'll put a comment, the link, so they can find you in the comment section when the video is up, and so they can see that. So
Sure.
my last question to you: what impact do you want to have on the world?
I would want to have hopefully a positive impact on everyone that I encounter, whether it be within the college setting where I work or just in community. I really do value community service and volunteering. So being able to really connect, especially with groups of individuals who are not able to access resources as well as others. So being able to be a voice for them and advocate, I believe is really important. And that's something I like to see more of us do, especially in the Black community. So that's what I'd like to do as I continue my journey, and hopefully inspire others to help in creating a journey for others as they move in their careers and in their education. So just kind of giving back and continuing the cycle.
Okay, man, that's important. What we do should help to change the narrative. And once we do that, we're going to inspire others to do the same.
Right.
Because then we become the model, then we become the example, and that's important when we're talking about change. So always aspire to be the example. And then we may not change or reach everybody, but we're not here to reach everyone. We may reach the ones that we are supposed to by being the example, by showing up as in the best version of ourselves. So I think that is really important in regards to making an impact, because you are the example, so that's just
Right.
how it is every time. So
Right.
Dr. Green, man, I really appreciate you sharing your perspective, your thoughts and insights today on the Black male impact. It was very well received, and I will make sure I listen again, because you said some key points that can be shared in everyday conversations with others. So I think that is important, because sometimes you have to get perspective and insights from others to do your own work whilst you're doing the work to make a difference. So Dr. Green, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Cross. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure.
Man, I appreciate you coming here on the Black Male Impact. So I hope this is not the last time. We will have further conversation as we go forward. And so we'll be in touch and keep this conversation and positive change going. So thanks for being here.
Awesome. Thank you. Take care.